Good morning, this is Shelby Law with the Great Basin Fire Potential Briefing for Sunday, June 10th, 2018. The significant fire potential impacts for the next few days have definitely decreased, as yesterday was our really big, dry, windy day across the geographic area. Today we're seeing those cooler temperatures moving in through the northern, northwest two-thirds of the area, with just continued dry, windy conditions over eastern and southeast Utah, where we're still looking for some higher fire potential there. By tomorrow, those winds die down, and we're really looking for mild, light winds across the geographic area for the first couple days of the week. Yesterday was a very hot, dry, and windy day across much of the Great Basin ahead of the cold front that moved through, although we did see some cooler temperatures and some very light precipitation over Idaho and the northern fringe of Nevada behind that front. Some fire activity popped up as the winds gusted across the geographic area yesterday. We did see a few fires in northern Utah and southeast Idaho. This dry pattern that we've been in for the past few weeks continues, especially over Utah and Nevada and parts of southern Idaho. This dryness continues to be indicated in our NFDRS values. Here we're looking at the energy release component, and we can see that we're setting new historical records for portions of southeast Utah and really sitting pretty high elsewhere over much of Utah. Even over northern Utah, over the past week, we've seen a pretty significant rise in ERC values. Where they were below normal, now they've popped up to above normal. This morning's satellite imagery shows that area of low pressure moving across the western U.S. It was these conditions out ahead of this front that created that warm and dry, windy weather yesterday. The front has moved through much of the geographic area today, so we'll expect to see cooler temperatures region-wide, although this is a dry front, so the storms will really not spread into the Great Basin. Ahead of this front, though, we'll still see some drier, windy conditions in eastern and southeast Utah. By this afternoon, westerly winds will spread throughout the geographic area, allowing temperatures to slowly increase from this morning's very cool temperatures. High-risk triggers have still been issued for this afternoon over far southern and eastern Utah, where prefrontal conditions still exist with gusty winds and low relative humidities. Shown on this map is where we're expecting those highest winds, particularly over eastern and far southern Utah. Temperatures are below average for the time of year for today, with highs really only in the 60s and 70s for much of the geographic area. The farthest south and east portions of the area are still pretty warm out ahead of this front, with highs in the 90s and minimum relative humidities remaining in the single digits. Another mild day is expected for tomorrow, with light winds region-wide. There may just be some gusty winds lingering over far eastern Idaho and western Wyoming. And the dryness returns to much of the geographic area, especially across the south, where single-digit relative humidities remain. More of the same is expected for Tuesday. We'll begin to slowly see some moisture moving up from the south into the far southwest. We'll be watching this moisture to see when it does move into the Great Basin, but Tuesday still looks like a mild, dry day. Light winds are expected on Tuesday with low minimum relative humidities. The 3-day precipitation accumulations are shown here, with most of the geographic area remaining very dry. By midweek next week, here we're looking at Wednesday, we'll start to see some of that moisture move into far southern Utah. We could start to see some very isolated thunderstorms moving up as early as Wednesday, but more likely on Thursday. We've added some high-risk triggers on Thursday across the higher elevations of southern and southeast Utah as we look for this moisture to move up and create some isolated, generally dry thunderstorms. We'll also look for another little low pressure moving across the northern Rockies there, and that could increase some winds, particularly over Nevada and western Utah. By Friday, this moisture continues to move northward through the geographic area and is pulled up somewhat by that little low pressure moving across the northern Rockies. This will encourage the continued development of some isolated to scattered thunderstorms across portions of the central and eastern Great Basin. And more of the same is expected for Saturday, as that little low looks to continue marching further eastward. 7-day totals are shown here, and we are seeing a little bit of that moisture showing up here for the latter half of the forecast period, starting Wednesday through Friday, showing a little bit of precip moving into central and eastern Utah. The extended forecast for June 17th through the 23rd is calling for slightly above normal temperatures across the geographic area, with the warmest temperatures over the Pacific Northwest, and we'll be looking for above normal chances for precipitation over Utah as we continue to see some of that moisture moving up from the southwest. This concludes today's fire potential briefing. Please check back tomorrow for the latest updates.